So I guess this is really a testament to how fast time really does fly, but it has now been 6 full years that I've been actively, intentionally practicing minimalism. And a lot has changed in my life in the time since, but I've also learned a lot along the way. And so in this video, I want to share with you guys 6 lessons that I've learned on my journey to minimalism so far. But just before we do that, I want to take a quick second here just to say, what's up? To all my new subscribers, and to welcome you guys to the channel, welcome you guys to the journey. Thank you for following along. Let's get into the video. So the very first lesson that I've learned over the last 6 years that I've been practicing minimalism is that minimalism looks completely different for everybody based on their lifestyle and based on their values. As a single person living alone with just my little dog, I can get away with not owning very many things. I also have the luxury of not having to run things by another person or make compromises or accommodations for anybody else. And so I can live with very few items. I don't need a lot of space. I don't need a lot of storage. And I can generally get by living a pretty high quality life with very few physical possessions. With that said, if you have a different lifestyle than I do, if you live with a large family, if you have a partner, if you've squirted out a bunch of babies, you're gonna need a lot of things that I don't need, and your version of minimalism is gonna look a lot different than my version, and that's perfectly okay. As individuals, we also all have different hobbies and interests, and so indulging in your hobbies, indulging in the things that bring you fulfillment and happiness, and investing money and time and resources into them doesn't make you any less of a minimalist. If you're a big reader and you have a giant collection, a giant library of books in your home, that's great. If you're into music and you have a lot of music gear, I know I do, that's great. That doesn't make you any less of a minimalist, but what works for you may not work for the next person, and that's perfectly okay too. Minimalism isn't about self-deprivation, or at least it's not supposed to be. It's just supposed to be about where you assign your value. It's about living an intentional life and prioritizing the things that matter to you, and only you know what those things are. And so as long as you're approaching it through a lens of intentionality, enjoy the things that make you happy. Enjoy your books, enjoy your records, enjoy whatever it is that adds fulfillment to your life, and don't think that that makes you any less of a minimalist than somebody else. The second thing I've learned since I started practicing minimalism is that the minimalist aesthetic is pretty much unattainable for most people. If you look up minimalism online, be it on Google, on Pinterest, on YouTube, on Instagram, you're gonna find these photos and these videos of these perfectly curated spaces that look like they've come straight from an architecture magazine, and they're undisputably beautiful, but they're not realistic for many reasons. Often these photos are entirely staged. They are meant to look beautiful, they're not meant to be functional, they're not meant to be attainable to most people. I suppose I can only speak for myself, but I feel fairly confident in saying that the vast majority of us don't have interior designers hand selecting every item that comes into our home. We don't have $20,000 to spend on a designer couch. And the vast majority of us can't actually live in a space that looks like those, because where is all your stuff? Like how do you live there? Where do you cook and eat and hang out, and how do you live in those spaces? I don't know. The fact is that there are many different facets of minimalism. There's the lifestyle, there's the interior design concept, there's the art movement, and all of those things are completely unrelated. It's probably true that a lot of us who gravitate to one section of minimalism naturally find beauty and interest in other sectors, but they're not at all relevant to one another. And so even if your house doesn't look like something off of HGTV, that doesn't make you any less of a minimalist. And to be honest with you, and I'm guilty of this myself too, but it's really important to start to kind of let go of that, because it's just not realistic. That's not how most people live, at least not most people in my tax bracket. The third thing I've learned since I first started practicing minimalism 6 years ago was something that came kind of as a shock to me, and maybe I shouldn't have been so shocked, but it was that people require a lot of external validation. Minimalism in theory should be the antithesis to this. It should be about going against the grain, going against the norm, and doing what makes most sense for you, and rejecting consumerism and all of the rest of that. But I have noticed, especially online, and maybe it's just the sectors of the internet that I tend to hang out in, but there are so many people who will decide to pursue a minimalist lifestyle and then require validation from others that they're doing it right, which doesn't actually make any sense. On Facebook groups, on Reddit, in YouTube comments even, I see so many people who will ask questions like, well, how many pairs of pants am I allowed to own if I'm a minimalist? Or is it okay to own this? Or what if I don't have that? And they're totally missing the point, because first of all, why do you care what somebody else thinks? Like, I couldn't imagine being like, oh man, I have 3 pairs of black jeans. I thought I was a minimalist, but I guess I've been a fraud and I have to go turn myself in. Time to go to jail.
Oh no, I'm gonna be incarcerated. I'm going to jail.
Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. But my question is, why do you care what a stranger thinks? A stranger on the internet in particular, but why do you care what somebody thinks? People require so much validation, and I guess intrinsically I kind of knew that, but I didn't realize how bad it was. And to be honest with you, maybe it's that realization that was what drove me towards minimalism in the first place. The idea of everybody trying to show off what they have and how much money they make and all the nice things that they own, and me just being like, yeah, I don't really care about any of those things.
If I take that thing to school, everyone's gonna think I'm a poverty-stricken
There are some things that I do care about, and admittedly my house is one of them. But the fact of the matter is that whether I cared or not doesn't make me any less of a minimalist, and what I own or don't own doesn't make me any less of a minimalist. If I have more of something than you have, and you have more of something than I have, it doesn't really make a difference at all, does it? I suppose this could lead to a much broader conversation about the general lack of self-esteem and self-assuredness that seems to be so widespread in society today. Maybe I'll make a dedicated video about this at another point. If that's something you guys want to see, drop me a comment down below, let me know that that's interesting to you. But it just kind of seems sad to me. I want to be clear that I'm not even excluding myself from that demographic. Like, we're all human and we all have insecurities, but it just seems to be so widespread, and I think it's sad. As long as you're not hurting yourself or anybody else, what you do with your life, how you live, what you own, what you don't own, it's nobody's business but yours. And I wish that people had a little bit more confidence in their ability to understand that. Something else that I've learned on this journey is that minimalism is ever changing, and it's because we as humans are ever changing. Something that was really important to you yesterday may not be at all important to you today. Something that you can live perfectly happy without today, you might need really badly next week, and that's because life changes things. Life changes us. Our lives change. People are born, people die, people move, people relocate, they move houses, they change cars, they change jobs, they get new hobbies, new interests, start new friendships, start new relationships, and your needs are always going to change based on wherever you are in life today. And so I think it's important not to be too rigid and to remain open-minded to the idea that your lifestyle is going to change and your needs are going to change, and that's all part of the journey of life. The fifth thing I've learned along my minimalist journey so far is maybe one of the most profound things, in that it's just really going to open your eyes to the world around you. I think that it's no secret by now. I think most people, regardless of whether they consider themselves minimalists or maybe if they've never even heard that word, I think most people are quite aware of the fact that we live in a very consumerist society, that a heavy proportion of our world revolves around economic growth, and a heavy amount of that economic growth revolves around marketing you things that you don't need.
Consumption. It's the new national pastime. Fuck baseball. It's consumption.
In fact, the entire purpose of marketing is to sell you on the idea of something that you didn't know you needed, because if you knew you needed it, you wouldn't need it to be marketed to you, if that makes sense. And yeah, I don't think that that's a secret to anybody at this point unless they've been living under a rock, but when you make the intentional shift to live a more minimalist friendly lifestyle, and you make the deliberate decision to audit your belongings, audit your lifestyle, and start to remove the things that you don't deem to be necessary, you will be shocked how few of those things you own actually are necessary. How many things you own can do the same things as other things you own. How many things you own you've never really used, or you haven't used in a very long time, or you probably will never use again. And it's mind-blowing. Like, I would go as far as to say, and maybe this is a dramatic statement to make, but I would go as far as to say that 90% of the things that people spend money on, they could probably do just fine without. 90%. At least I think that that's the case. And again, this isn't about deprivation. If you find value in something, you should keep it and you should use it and you should enjoy it. But how many of the things that you own, that you spent your hard-earned money on, and by proxy, spent your time earning, that don't actually add any value to your life? For me, it was eye-opening for sure. And finally, the sixth thing that I've learned along the way so far is that as wonderful as minimalism is, it is not going to fix all your problems. I think it's very natural for us as humans to be very idealistic, to think about our life in the future once we accomplish this certain thing, once we do this certain task, once we hit this certain goal, and think that our lives are going to be dramatically different and dramatically better. That if only we got rid of these things, if only we moved to this nicer house, if only we've done this thing or that thing, that our lives are going to be better. And minimalism, at least for me, has been a wonderful positive addition to my life for all the reasons I've listed in this video and more. But it doesn't fix all your problems. It is not going to make you a happy person if you're unhappy. It is not going to make you a social person if you're not naturally a social person. It's not going to turn you from an introvert to an extrovert. It's not going to make you have tons of extra money if you already don't have tons of extra money. It absolutely can be a helpful stepping stone to get you into that mindset that will ultimately help you achieve your goals and reach personal growth. But in and of itself, it's not going to do that. Hopefully, minimalism is the thing that gets those gears churning and helps you to save money and helps you to form better relationships with people. But at the end of the day, simply decluttering or making the decision to own less things is not going to change your life. It is not going to fix your problems, and it's not going to make you a happy person. Only you can do those things. But yeah, those are the 6 things I've learned so far. 6 things in 6 years, and hopefully a lot more to come. If you've been practicing minimalism for any length of time now and you have found that you have learned any life lessons outside of the scope of what I've just mentioned, feel free to drop me a comment down below and let me know your thoughts, because I'm really interested in engaging with you guys and hearing your perspectives. If you enjoyed this video at all, if you found any value in it or you found it at all entertaining, please go ahead and hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. I make videos about minimalism, personal finance, investing, lifestyle design, and all sorts of other interesting things. So definitely follow along, maybe hit that notification bell as well. Other than that, thank you guys so much as always for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you next week. Take care.